So we finally got our recorded test to work. What I've also done here, for the sake of exemplary purposes, is I've duplicated these recorded tests. I literally just copied and pasted them to pretend like we actually have a suite of tests. And you can just pretend and imagine with me that we have a suite of 500 recorded tests. Not that it's ever possible to maintain a suite of 500 recorded tests, but let's pretend and imagine. 500 is a good amount of automated functional tests to have, and let's pretend that we have those tests. And the reason that I want to pretend that we have those tests is because I want to drive a point home in that with recorded automated functional tests, it is all pure duplication. So if you take a look at the test here, compared to the test here, compared to this test, everything is duplicated. And of course, I copied everything, but there is no other way around it. When you record a test, you redo all of your steps and you re-record every single action. Regardless, there's no other way about it. So that's the point. Now keep that in mind, because any single change that we have to make as a result of a change in our application under test is going to affect all of those tests that directly communicate with that application. So take a look at this test right here. Test 1, fix 2. What about this test can be affected by the application under test? Something about the application under test that can change that will cause our test to break. Now, if you're looking at this test and it looks okay to you, as if you don't think that there's anything wrong with this test, that is completely okay. And I actually expect that from you, because I've been at multiple job situations where people are still using record and replay to do automated functional testing. Why wouldn't they? It seems so attractive when they hear a proposition that you can record your test, you can record the steps, and then have them running within a few minutes and have a bunch of tests recorded within a few minutes. That sounds fantastic. I would love that proposition. But the problem is that when something in the application under test changes, everything about the test can break. For example, our URL can change. Any of the locators here can change. These class names, they can change. These IDs can change. Of course, it's not as likely, but it's possible. The locators can change. The URL can change. Even worse, the usernames and the passwords can change as well. One of the worst situations to deal with is test data management, which is another beast of its own. But imagine trying to navigate from dev to test to prod. You have to maintain all those usernames and passwords, and you can't do that in a recorded test. The URL, what are you going to do when you need to go from dev to test to prod? Are you going to hard code those URLs into your scripts? I've actually seen that done. I've actually been at a workplace where we had about 100 or so automated functional tests recording, even though only 30 of them were actually testing any kind of functionality, because the other 67% were just duplication of the first 30% of the tests, because they had scripts for dev, test, and prod. The scripts were doing the exact same thing. The only difference was the URL. So now imagine how many lines of code you have to maintain to be able to just look after 30 tests. That's insane. And so anytime any kind of application change happens, it will break all of those tests. And as opposed to fixing it in a single place, now you have to go to 3 different places for 3 different scripts to fix your tests. And that's the entire point here. The problem with record and replay is that a single change in your application can drastically affect all of your tests in your application as long as they're touching it, because all of your tests are directly touching the application. They will all be directly affected by a change in that application. And so that's why everybody says automated functional tests are brittle. Because of course they're brittle when you have a single change that needs to be updated in 500 different instances. Of course, you're going to say that it's brittle. And of course, you're going to throw up your hands in the air and complain.